What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Oak Tree Football Channel, and welcome to another 2020 NFL schedule breakdown and record prediction video. Today, I'll be doing one of the most historic teams in the NFL's entire history, and that is the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers seem to be good almost every year. Last year, they were just about average, finishing 8-8. But that was mostly because their starting quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger, was injured for basically the whole season, and they had Mason Rudolph and Devlin Hodges playing quarterback, which is not great. The Steelers definitely have a lot of talent on this roster, and I'm seriously looking at their defense as one of the best in the NFL, in my opinion, definitely top 10, potentially even top 5. There's just a lot of talent on that team. TJ Watt is already becoming a star, and there's just so many more fantastic players. And then on the offense, they're pretty good there. James Conner at running back, and then they do have Juju Smith-Schuster at wide receiver, who was not great last season. He did have less than stellar quarterback play, but he was really good in his first few years when he was the number 2 receiver behind Antonio Brown. But then when he became the starter, there were definitely some struggles, but I think he can bounce back this season. And then they have Ben Roethlisberger coming back, and that should be huge. Like I said, they had some not great quarterback play last season, and now that they are able to get their serious starting quarterback back, when healthy, he can really be one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. Maybe not anymore, but he once was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And he still is good. I just feel like retirement is going to come for him soon. He's been talking about it for a few years. But the Steelers are a real playoff contender to me. Great offense and great defense, and if everything goes right, they can be very good on offense too. So now getting into their schedule, they won 8-8 last season, just missed the playoffs, and now getting into their schedule, week 1, they actually have the Monday night game. As you know, 2 teams play on Monday night in the first week of the season. Steelers will play one of those games at MetLife Stadium against the New York Giants. They are on the road for this game, but the Giants aren't the best football team. I did my prediction for them earlier. There is some talent on that roster. I just can't really see the Giants putting that together this season. And I don't feel like this should be that much of a challenge for the Steelers. I mean, we might see some early struggles from the offense, I would say, just because it's their first game of the season. They're on the road. And it's Ben Roethlisberger's first game back. I think we might see some struggles from the offense in this game, but I think their defense should be pretty good, in my opinion. I think their defense will probably win this game, in my opinion. I think we might see them start to pull away on the offensive side of the ball later in the game, but I think their defense early will help them win this game because it's just a very, very good defense, and they definitely have the talent to just stop a team, especially one of the worst teams. They can just stop them and not have them move the ball at all. They're a dominant defense. Week 2, they have a tough one, though. It's against the Denver Broncos. I recently did my Denver Broncos prediction, and if you saw that video, you do know that I think the Broncos can be a pretty good team this season. Drew Lock, I think, can be very good this season. They drafted really well. They had a pretty good free agency. They got some good running backs in Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay that got some really good wide receivers. They have some good tight ends. Their offensive line does need a little help, but they have some good players on the defensive side as well. So the Broncos are a team I expect to be really good this season. But this game is at home for the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is why I think they could win this game, just because they're at home. Because I think on paper these teams are similar based on talent. I think the Steelers might be the better team, and just being at home, I am leaning towards the Steelers in this one. I could see the Broncos winning, but I do think there's a better chance of the Steelers. Week 3, they're playing the Texans at home. So the Texans were a very good team last season, but we all know some of the moves Bill O'Brien has made are less than ideal for them. Getting rid of DeAndre Hopkins, apparently because he costed too much money, and then bringing in Brandon Cooks, who is worse than DeAndre Hopkins and costs more money, which just did not make any sense at all. He should never have become the Texans general manager. He's kind of messed up their playoff chances, but if you haven't checked my Deshaun Watson video, check it out. I really talked about how I think Deshaun Watson alone can help the Texans be a playoff contender this season. I seriously think they could be close to double-digit wins this season. I would say probably around 9 would be. I think that makes sense for them. maybe a bit lower, but there is talent on the wide receiver core. There's talent on that offense, and there's talent on that defense. It's obviously not as good as it was last year, but it's still a very good football team, and I do expect them to be pretty competitive this season. But I do think the Steelers will win this game at home, just being the better team overall, and being the home team. So the Steelers, in my opinion, really have one of the best rosters in football. It's just, well, they could have one of the best rosters in football if some of their players we know are going to be good. If Smith-Schuster can play very well, if Roethlisberger can play well in his return, if Connor can step up. James Conner was just okay last season. He was not great. If some of these players can step up, this is going to be a seriously good team, and they do have a good roster. And Steelers could be someone to look out for. They just are in a tough division with last year's Baltimore Ravens, who finished 14-2 last year, which was best in the NFL in the regular season. Moving on to Week 4, they're playing the Titans at Tennessee. The Titans had a great playoff run last season, nearly even made it to the Super Bowl. Obviously, they were defeated by the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, but it was one of the biggest surprise runs we've seen in recent history, where they defeated the defending champions and then the number 1 seed in the whole NFL. That was really surprising, and I think that they will be pretty good this season. I don't think they'll be great. Some people think they're going to be really, really good. I don't think they're going to be that good, but I do think they'll probably win this division. There's definitely talent on that team. Derrick Henry, they locked up Ryan Tannehill for a big contract. There's definitely talent. They play well together. I mean, Derrick Henry had an unforgettable season last year. He'll probably be good again this season as long as he doesn't get injured. So the Titans should probably be a team to look out for this season. And they are at home in this game, which is why I see the Steelers having big problems. I am leaning towards the Titans. I could see the Steelers winning. That's the same for a lot of the Steelers games this season. I could see them going either way, especially the ones that they're losing. Those I could definitely see going either way. Week 5, they play the Philadelphia Eagles. So Pittsburgh versus Philadelphia. If you did not know, I am a Philadelphia Eagles fan, so I would be rooting for them in this game, but I am not going to take that into account. I will give my actual prediction for this one. So I do believe that the Eagles have a very good roster, and if the Eagles can stay healthy, I think they can be a serious contender again. You look at this roster, and most of the time they've played really well when they're on the field. They won the Super Bowl a few years ago. Like, we know this is a good roster. Sure, Carson Wentz wasn't in that game, but Carson Wentz is still a really good quarterback. Honestly, Carson Wentz is definitely a top quarterback in the NFL. Because last season he threw 27 touchdowns to 7 interceptions with some wide receivers that you might never have heard the name of. I don't know many other quarterbacks in the NFL that could do that. I'm not saying Wentz is the only one, but it's not every quarterback in the NFL that can do that. This is a really good team. Doug Peterson is a good coach. There is a lot of talent on this roster. If the Eagles can stay healthy, they can be one of the best teams in the NFL. But if they can't, it'll probably be more of the same for them. Really struggling at times and probably just sneaking into the playoffs. But this is probably the best Cowboys roster we've seen in a few years, so I think there's a lot of pressure on them this season to play well, because the Cowboys could also be very good this season. I could definitely see this game going either way. The Steelers being at home really helps out. Obviously, it's still in Pennsylvania. Both of these teams are Pennsylvania teams. I am leaning towards the Eagles, but I am by no means counting the Steelers out. This game could go either way, and I'm actually really, really excited to watch it. Week 6, the Cleveland Browns, division rivals. This game, I don't really see that much of a challenge for the Steelers. Of course, they play the Browns twice. Maybe later when they play the Browns on the road, I think that might be a challenge. But for the first game at home, I don't see there being much of a challenge for them. Of course, people believe the Browns were going to be such a good team a year ago, and then they shocked everybody, or at least most people, and were pretty terrible. I think they'll definitely improve this year, and I think they potentially can be a playoff candidate, especially now with 7 teams going to the playoffs. This is just a tough division. Honestly, the the Ravens had such a good year last year, and I don't think they're going to be much worse, especially with like the additions of Calais Campbell. Steelers, I think, are going to be really good because they made some good additions. Even though they are losing Javon Hargrave, they made some really good additions and just have a great team overall. Bengals drafted Joe Burrow and had a pretty good free agency, bringing in players like Von Bell. They improved, and I would say the Browns improved as well. I think the Browns will be better just in their second real season. They got Kevin Stefanski as their head coach. I think the Browns will improve with Beckham in his second season. It will be Mayfield's second full season as a starter. Obviously, he played most of 2018, but unless he gets injured, it'll be his first or second full season. I think the Browns will improve, but I can't see them winning this game. Week 7, the Pittsburgh Steelers have one of their toughest games of the season. It's at the Baltimore Ravens. This is probably their toughest game of the season. The Baltimore Ravens were so good last season. Obviously, they struggled in the playoffs, but in the regular season, they were almost unbeatable, especially in the last few weeks of the year. Started off 2-2 and then ended 14-2. And the Steelers, the game against the Steelers, week 5 last season, that was really the game when the Ravens stretch started. They beat the Steelers 26-23, and that was when their long winning stretch started. I think the Ravens are going to be good again this year. I don't think they'll go 14-2, but I think they can still win 13-12 games. Lamar Jackson, if he can stay healthy, might even be an MVP candidate again. Such a fun team to watch. It's really talented team as well. They drafted really, really well. And I can't see the Steelers winning on the road in this one. They then have a bye week, and then they have to play at the Dallas Cowboys. Talked about the Cowboys a bit earlier. Cowboys definitely improved this offseason. Drafted very well. Definitely one of the best drafts in the league, I would say, along with the Baltimore Ravens. And maybe even the Denver Broncos. Maybe you can consider the Broncos to be one of the better drafts. But for me, it's really the Ravens and the Cowboys were the best two drafts in the NFL. And this game being at home for the Cowboys, it's going to be tough for the Steelers. This is a very historic NFL matchup. Two of the most historic NFL teams of all time. Dak Prescott is a very interesting quarterback to me for the Cowboys because he hasn't really reached his peak yet. He hasn't been great. If he can reach his peak or at least get closer to that, I think the Cowboys can be a good team. Obviously, Elliott is one of the best running backs in the NFL. If Prescott can improve, which is a possibility, I think that they can be a great team. Great receiving core. Just a great team overall, and as an Eagles fan, that does kind of hurt me to say. But I do think the Cowboys are going to be really good this season, and I think they can give the Steelers a very good fight, if not win this game. Week 10, they play the Cincinnati Bengals. This one I don't see being much of a challenge for the Steelers. Bengals, they definitely did improve, but they weren't great last season, and I don't think they'll make the playoffs unless Joe Burrow comes in and shocks us all once again. But I don't think this will be much of a problem for the Steelers. I think the Steelers are the better team. And being at home, I think that should be enough to get the job done. Week 11, they're on the road, but it's against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jaguars are considered to be one of the worst teams in the NFL, even the worst team by some people. They're expected to have one of the first picks in the draft, and I do agree with that. They're just not that good of a team. I'm actually a big Gardner Minshew fan, so I'm hoping he can kind of turn it around for them, but it's just really not going to happen, is it? They're just not that great of a roster compared to the rest of the NFL. And I don't think they'll have the first pick in the draft like some other people believe, but I don't think it'll be that far off from that. So I think this should be a pretty easy win for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Week 12, this is a very interesting one. It's against the Baltimore Ravens on Thursday Night Football, actually. Against the Baltimore Ravens, but this time it's at home. I seriously think the Steelers could have a chance. Obviously, I talked about the Ravens already. I think at home, the Steelers are going to have a better chance at this one. I would not be surprised if we see the Steelers winning. I could definitely see the Ravens winning, though. Week 13, they're at the Redskins. Or not at the Redskins. They're just playing the Redskins at home. Like the Jaguars, the Redskins are another team I don't think will be great this season. And I think it should be a pretty easy win, especially being at home and with a longer break coming off the Thursday night game, which of course means I'll have a longer break. I think this should be a pretty easy win for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Week 14, they got a really, really tough game, though. It's at the Buffalo Bills. the Buffalo Bills are a team that should be very good this season, and of course, last year they played on Sunday Night Football, and the Bills were able to get the win. I think it'll probably be the same this year because the Bills are at home, and I think these are similar levels of talent teams, but because the Bills are at home, I am leaning towards them. Week 15, they play the Bengals again. Talked about the Bengals already. I think they'll improve. I just don't think they'll be great. I think they'll be better in this game against the Steelers just because the Bengals are at home for this one, but at the end of the day, the Steelers are the better football team, and I do think they'll get the win. Week 16, they play the Indianapolis Colts. Colts are a very interesting team. Some people think they can be really good. Others think they're not going to be so great. Personally, I don't think they're going to be that great, but I could definitely see them being good with the addition of Phillip Rivers and a pretty good roster already. Some really good running backs, honestly. Nyheim Hines is actually a very underrated running back, in my opinion. And then they were able to draft Michael Pittman, which was a great pick. And then they already had Marlon Mack. Very good team for the Colts, especially on offense. And they have talent on defense as well, like Darius Leonard. I think they'll be good, or I think they'll be okay. Not good, but not bad either. I think they'll be just in the middle, probably around 8, 7, 6, 9 wins, in my opinion. And then to end the season off, they play the Browns again. This one I think will be closer than their other game against the Browns, just because the Browns are at home. But I still think the Steelers will probably win this game, but I'm not sure. So now, as I always do, I'll go through each game once again, and I'll give my prediction for who I believe will win. I'm taking the Steelers against the Giants. I don't see much of a problem there. I am going to take the Steelers against the Broncos. I think it'll be tough. And I could see it going either way, but I will take the Steelers. I'll take the Steelers against the Texans as well to give them a 3-0 start. But I'm actually going to have them losing back-to-back against the Titans and the Eagles. I just think that the Titans are a very good team, and being on the road, I think the Titans will be able to get the job done. And I just think the Eagles are better than the Steelers. This is assuming the Eagles will be healthy. If the Eagles aren't healthy, I'm probably taking the Steelers in this game. But if the Eagles can be healthy, I'm definitely taking the Eagles. Well, not definitely, but I will be taking the Eagles. Week 6 against the Browns, I'm going to take the Steelers in this one. But Week 7 against the Ravens, I have them losing. Then they have the bye week. So I'm having 3 losses at the bye. And then I have them losing to the Cowboys coming out of the bye. I just think that playing at Dallas is going to be too tough for them. I'm taking the Cowboys. I think they'll beat the Bengals and the Jaguars pretty easily. And then I actually think they'll beat the Ravens just because being at home, I think the atmosphere will get to Baltimore. And I am going to take the Steelers in that one. I think it's an easy win over the Redskins, but I'm going to have them losing to the Buffalo Bills on the road. I just think the Bills are going to be good enough to beat them. And then I think they'll win out for the rest of the season to go 11-5. I think they're a very good team, and if everything goes right, this team could definitely be really good. Maybe even at best 13-3. But if we see injuries again, if Juju Smith-Schuster really isn't that good again, maybe 8-8 again. I don't think it'll be 8-8 again, but that's just probably worst case scenario in my opinion. But those are my thoughts on the 2020 Pittsburgh Steelers. What are your guys' thoughts? Tell me in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, and if you're new around here, feel free to subscribe for more daily NFL and college football content. Really hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.